Good evening, darlings and deviants. My name is Lucy, and I'm just a little loony. March of the Machine is just around the corner, and there are so many legendaries and battles, new cards to spice up all your commander decks, make brand new ones. But one legendary out of all of them caught my eye. A girl and her monkey known as Rashmi and Ragavan from the new Commander Precons. I'll be real, I made this script and video as an excuse to gush about how cool this card is and what I love about it. This will be a bit of a shorter video, a bit more unhinged, but I'll be talking about some interesting ways to take the R&R connection and some spicy cards to use. So, without further ado, it's showtime! First things first, Rashmi and Ragavan is a blue, a red, and a green for a 2/4 elf monkey that reads, whenever you cast your first spell during each of your turns, exile the top card of target opponent's library and create a treasure token. Then you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost if it's a spell with mana value less than the number of artifacts you control. If you don't cast it this way, you may cast it this turn. We have a pretty simple game plan here. Make lots and lots of artifacts, steal all our opponent's stuff, and then kill them with our artifacts, some big things that synergize with our artifacts, or whatever we got off their deck. Real fun stuff. I love these like thievery style commander decks, and Teamer's my favorite color combination, blue, red, green, so I'm really excited for this. My first thought was to put in cards that let us look at our opponent's libraries. But the more I looked into the cards that let you use that, they're not that good. But I did find a couple of spicy ones. One that did stand out is Jay's Divine Sculptor. Yeah, he's good on his own, but his +2 to allow us to look at the top card of our opponent's library and put it at the bottom helps us stop from whiffing and not hit a land or something. And through my digging, I found a very realistic option in the form of Moonring Island from Shadowmoor. It's a non-basic island that comes into play tapped, but lets you pay a blue and tap it to look at the top card of a player's library. I don't really like running tap lands like this too much, but it's not like a huge deficit as long as we're running mostly lands that enter the battlefield untapped, and it gives us a neat effect that prevents us from not hitting some big awesome spells, or just any spells really. I think the better overall plan is to just flood our opponents out with a bunch of artifact tokens and win the day. To that end, the Precon comes with some of my favorite cards. Tireless Tracker and Tireless Provisioner, along with Academy Manufacturer, help us make a bunch of food, a bunch of clues, and a bunch of treasure. Treasure is probably the most important out of all of those, as to help us cast the exiled spells in case we're short on artifacts. And plus we're running ramp cards anyway since we're in green, so stuff like Rampant Growth, Cultivate, Kadama's Reach, Skyshroud Claim, I could go on and on and on. So landfall shouldn't be too hard to hit. And probably the first thing you'd want to do with this deck in particular is buff it with some fetch lands. Even if you don't have the mana for the actually super big fancy shock lands like a Scalding Tarn or a Misty Rainforest, stuff like Evolving Wilds is just as good. Not just as good, but you know what I mean. It still gives us 2 landfall triggers and does what we want. And with Tireless Provisioner, we get treasure to offset that land coming into play tapped. The Precon deck honestly comes out of the gate swinging, full of awesome cards for this archetype, and will probably only need a few upgrades. And while it comes with Saheeli Sublime Artificer, all of the Saheeli Planeswalkers have something awesome to offer this deck. From Filigree Masters draw and token production, to the original and the gifted making tokens, Saheeli's right at home in a deck like this. And while I'm thinking about drawing cards, Inspired Sphinx is a bit expensive at 7 mana, but draws us 3 cards and can make us more artifacts. Well, draws us 3 cards unless we have only like 2 opponents, but it's Commander. Most of the time we'll have 3 opponents. And you know, while he's a big fat jerk who still owes me $5, Tezzeret Artifice Master both makes artifacts for our commander and draws us cards as long as we have 3 artifacts, which we should. He's okay. He still owes me $5 though. Digging a bit deeper into the depths of potential spice for this deck, the Brothers' War is an especially awesome card from the Commander Set Booster exclusive cards from the Brothers' War. For 3 and a red, you get an enchantment saga that comes into play and makes 2 power stone tokens. Since we're an artifact deck predominantly, this shouldn't be like the fact that they can only make mana for artifacts isn't too big of a downside. Then, on the second chapter, it sows chaos among our opponents by forcing them to attack each other, giving us protection against 2 players at once. Then, for the finale, we get to deal X damage to 2 different targets equal to the number of artifacts we have, which ideally should be a whole lot. And while we're on the subject of sick enchantments that synergize with an artifact deck, let's take a look at Storm the Vault. For 2, a blue, and a red, we get a legendary enchantment that makes us a treasure token whenever 1 or more of our creatures deal combat damage to an opponent. That still works if we send 1 creature at 3 opponents, that gives us 3 treasures. But more importantly, if we have 5 artifacts that are in step, which we almost always should, if we don't, something has gone horribly wrong, we get to flip the enchantment into Vault of Catlacan, which is a land that taps to add a blue for each artifact we control, which is at least, because of the flip effect, 5. And since we're in green, we can play cards that untap our lands, such as Guruk Wildspeaker, so we can make a bunch of mana to cast more swinging artifacts or some big, awesome, cool X spell. You take your pick there. I could go on and on and on with cool cards and cool brews that are thundering around in my head that I can't wait to try. I'd love to hear from you. What cards are you going to try and slot into your decks from this set? Are you more excited about another awesome legendary from March of the Machine? Let me know in the comments below. And hey, while you're there, please help me satisfy the algorithm's endless hunger and give me a like and a subscribe. Thank you very much, everybody. And until next time, au revoir.